Chapter 1. The Unseen Bloom. The air in Willow Creek was perpetually scented with the damp earth and the sweet, melancholic perfume of the ancient willow trees that gave the town its name. Eleanor, with her quiet disposition and eyes the color of a stormy sea, found solace in their rustling leaves. She managed the Gilded Page, a small, independent bookstore tucked away on a cobblestone side street, a haven of worn spines and hushed stories. Her days were a gentle rhythm of dusting shelves, recommending novels, and brewing her mother's potent chamomile tea. Life for Eleanor was predictable, a comfortable, if solitary melody. Then the letter arrived. It was a thick, cream-colored envelope, bearing a wax seal that spoke of old money and distant promises. Inside, a single sheet of parchment detailed the unexpected inheritance of a sprawling, derelict estate on the outskirts of Willow Creek, a place whispered about in hushed tones, a place called Blackwood Manor. It was left to her by a great-aunt she'd never known. The legal jargon was dense, but the implication was clear. She, Eleanor Vance, was now the owner of a grand, forgotten property. The news sent a ripple of unease through her. Her small world, so carefully curated, felt suddenly vulnerable. Blackwood Manor was a place of local legend, shrouded in tales of a tragic past, of a family consumed by secrets. Eleanor, a pragmatist at heart, dismissed these as mere folklore, but a tremor of apprehension nonetheless ran through her. Still, curiosity, a persistent companion of any bookseller, gnawed at her. She packed a small bag, leaving her beloved bookstore in the capable hands of her elderly assistant, Gable, and drove her modest sedan towards the shadowed gates of her inheritance. The manor loomed against the bruised twilight sky, a Gothic silhouette of gabled roofs and darkened windows. Ivy, thick and tenacious, clung to its stone walls like a shroud. A wrought iron gate, rusted and protesting, creaked open at her touch, revealing a winding driveway choked with weeds. As she approached the imposing oak doors, a figure emerged from the gloom. He was tall, dressed in dark, well-tailored clothing, his posture exuding an air of quiet authority. His features were sharp, almost sculpted, and his eyes, when they met hers, held a depth that was both intriguing and unnerving. He introduced himself as Mr. Silas Croft, the estate's caretaker, his voice a low baritone that resonated with an almost imperceptible sadness. He had been expecting her, he said, his gaze lingering on her face as if searching for something he'd lost. Eleanor felt an inexplicable pull, a sense of recognition that defied logic, as if a forgotten chapter of her own life had just begun to unfurl. Chapter 2. Echoes in the Dust. Silas Croft moved through Blackwood Manor with an almost spectral grace, a living shadow in its dusty halls. Eleanor, accustomed to the quiet order of her bookstore, found herself both intimidated and fascinated by his presence. He was a man of few words, his actions speaking volumes. He'd already anticipated her needs, a fire crackling in the grand, albeit faded, drawing-room hearth, a pot of Mrs. Gable's tea brewing in the cavernous kitchen. He explained, in his measured tone, that he had been tending to the estate for years, a silent guardian of its decaying grandeur. As Silas guided her through the manor, Eleanor felt the weight of its history press down on her. Portraits of stern-faced ancestors lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow her every move. Each room whispered of lives lived, of joys celebrated and sorrows endured. Silas pointed out faded photographs, shared snippets of family lore, his voice laced with a reverence that suggested a deep, personal connection to the place. He spoke of the Blackwood family's decline, of a matriarch who had lost her husband and then her spirit, leaving the manor to crumble along with her hopes. Eleanor listened, captivated, the stories weaving a spell around her, blurring the lines between past and present. She discovered a hidden library, its shelves crammed with leather-bound volumes, a testament to the intellectual pursuits of generations past. Here, amidst the scent of old paper and binding glue, Eleanor felt a kinship with the unseen inhabitants of Blackwood Manor. Silas, watching her, a flicker of something akin to relief crossing his face, told her that this was the late Mrs. Blackwood's favorite room. He explained that he had kept the library in good condition, a small act of defiance against the encroaching decay. That evening, As a storm gathered outside, lashing rain against the ancient windows, Eleanor found herself drawn to the drawing room, where Silas sat by the fire, a book open in his lap, though his gaze was lost in the flames. A profound silence settled between them, not an awkward one, but a comfortable, companionable quiet. Eleanor felt a strange sense of belonging, a feeling she hadn't realized she'd been missing. Silas turned, his eyes meeting hers in the flickering firelight. "This place," he began, his voice softer now. "Some more painful than others." He paused, as if wrestling with words, then continued, "But it also holds the potential for new beginnings." Eleanor, looking at him, felt a nascent hope stir within her, a fragile bloom pushing through the hardened earth of her solitude. Chapter 3. The Weight of a Name. Eleanor's days at Blackwood Manor settled into a new, albeit unexpected routine. Mornings were spent exploring the vast grounds, the overgrown gardens a testament to forgotten beauty, the ancient trees standing like silent sentinels. Afternoons were dedicated to the library, where she lost herself in the lives of the Blackwood ancestors, their triumphs and tragedies laid bare in faded ink. Evenings often found her in the drawing room, Silas a quiet, comforting presence. Silas, it became clear, was more than just a caretaker. He possessed an intimate knowledge of the manor and its history, his stories painting vivid pictures of the people who had once walked these halls. He spoke of the family's philanthropic endeavors, of their passion for the arts, but also of a lingering melancholy that seemed to have settled over the Blackwoods like a persistent fog. He would often pause, his brow furrowed, when discussing certain branches of the family tree, a subtle hesitation that hinted at unspoken truths. One rainy afternoon, Eleanor unearthed a collection of old letters, tied with a faded blue ribbon. They were addressed to her great-aunt, Eleanor Blackwood, and written in a flowing, elegant hand. As she read, a story unfolded, a passionate, clandestine romance between her great-aunt and a young artist named Julian. The letters spoke of stolen moments, of dreams of a life together, and of a cruel separation imposed by the family. A deep ache settled in Eleanor's chest, a shared sorrow with a woman she had never known. Later, as Silas was helping her catalog some of the library's more fragile volumes, Eleanor showed him the letters. His face paled as he recognized Julian's handwriting. "Julian Devereux," he murmured, his voice tight. "He was a gifted artist. He and your great-aunt were deeply in love." He looked away, his gaze fixed on the rain-streaked window. The family disapproved. Julian was considered unsuitable. He hesitated, then confessed, "I knew him briefly, before everything changed." A wave of understanding washed over Eleanor. Silas wasn't just a caretaker. He was a witness to this old heartbreak, a keeper of its silent echoes. The weight of the Blackwood name, Eleanor realized, was heavier than she had imagined, burdened by secrets and the enduring pain of lost love. Chapter 4. Shadows of Betrayal. The discovery of the letters had cast a new light on Blackwood Manor, transforming it from a mere inheritance into a repository of a deeply personal tragedy. Eleanor found herself increasingly drawn to the story of Eleanor Blackwood and Julian Devereux, their passion of vibrant contrast to the manor's somber present. She spent hours poring over family records, piecing together the fragments of their forbidden romance and its heartbreaking conclusion. Silas, too, seemed burdened by the past. He would often stare into the distance, a pensive expression clouding his features, and his explanations of the family's history became more guarded, tinged with an unspoken regret. One evening, Eleanor pressed him gently. "You said you knew Julian, Silas. How?" He finally broke his silence, his voice heavy, with a confession he had clearly held for years. "My mother was a housekeeper here, many years ago. Julian was a frequent visitor, even after the family forbade him. He'd sneak in through the gardens. My mother, she helped them meet. She believed in their love." He paused, his gaze hardening. Then, one day, Julian simply stopped coming. No explanation, no farewell. Eleanor Blackwood was heartbroken. She never truly recovered. Eleanor's heart ached for both her great-aunt and for Julian. What could have driven such a loving connection to an abrupt end? A seed of suspicion began to sprout in her mind. Silas's mother had been privy to their meetings. Perhaps she knew more than she had let on. Driven by a need for answers, Eleanor delved deeper into the archives. She found a diary, tucked away in a secret compartment of a writing desk, belonging to the late matriarch of the Blackwood family. The entries were filled with bitter pronouncements against Julian, whom she deemed unworthy of her daughter's hand. But one entry, dated shortly after Julian's disappearance, sent a chill down Eleanor's spine. It spoke of a decisive action taken to protect the family's reputation, and alluded to a considerable sum of money paid to silence an unwanted complication. The implication was chilling. The Blackwood matriarch had actively intervened, not just by forbidding the relationship, but by orchestrating Julian's removal. The betrayal was palpable, a dark stain on the family's legacy, and Eleanor realized that Silas's mother might have been more than just a silent witness. She could have been a pawn in a much larger, more sinister game. Chapter 5: A Storm Within. The revelation from the matriarch's diary hung heavy in the air, a tangible pall over Blackwood Manor. Eleanor felt a knot of anger and sorrow tighten in her chest. The carefully constructed facade of familial duty had crumbled, revealing a foundation of ruthless ambition and calculated cruelty. She confronted Silas with her findings, her voice trembling with a mixture of grief and indignation. Silas listened, his face a mask of shock and dawning comprehension. He confessed that his mother had always been evasive when the topic of Julian arose, her silence now making a terrible kind of sense. She never spoke of being paid, he said, his voice strained. She always seemed so sad, as if she carried a burden of her own. He looked at Eleanor, his eyes filled with a new understanding of the past, and perhaps of himself. "She protected me," he whispered, as if to himself. "She protected us from knowing the full extent of it." The storm outside, which had been raging for days, mirrored the tempest brewing within Eleanor. She felt a profound sense of injustice for her great-aunt, for the love that had been stolen, for the life that had been irrevocably altered. She walked through the manor, her gaze falling on the portraits of the Blackwood ancestors, their stern faces now seeming to hold a chilling indifference to the suffering they had caused. One evening, while searching for more clues, Eleanor stumbled upon a hidden compartment behind a loose stone in the fireplace of the main hall. Inside, she found a small tarnished silver locket. It contained 2 miniature portraits, one of a young, radiant Eleanor Blackwood, and the other, surprisingly, of Silas's mother, Clara. Beneath the portraits, inscribed in delicate script, were the initials E.B. C.M. Eleanor looked at Silas, a dawning realization in her eyes. This changes things," she breathed. Silas took the locket, his fingers tracing the faint outlines of the portraits. Chapter 6: Unveiling the Truth. The locket, with its twin portraits, had ignited a new fire in Eleanor, a burning desire to unravel the complete truth of what had transpired. The narrative of a matriarch's cruelty was now complicated by the possibility of a forbidden love between her great-aunt and Silas's mother, Clara. Eleanor felt a profound empathy for these women, trapped by societal expectations and the suffocating grip of the Blackwood name. Silas, too, was deeply affected. The locket had revealed a hidden facet of his mother's life, a secret loyalty that cast her past in a new, poignant light. He began to share stories his mother had confided in him over the years, fragments of conversations that now seemed to hold a deeper meaning. Clara had often spoken of a profound admiration for Eleanor Blackwood, describing her as a woman of immense spirit and kindness, trapped in a gilded cage. She had also hinted at a deep sense of guilt, a feeling of having failed someone she cared for, a feeling Eleanor now understood was tied to Julian. Together they meticulously searched the manor, not for more secrets, but for evidence that would clarify the roles of Eleanor Blackwood, Julian Devereux, and Clara Croft. They found a hidden compartment in Clara's old room, a small locked wooden box. Silas, with a pang of dread, forced it open. Inside, nestled amongst dried flowers and a faded ribbon, was a small, intricately carved wooden bird, a familiar motif from Julian's known artwork. Beneath it lay a final, unsent letter from Julian to Eleanor Blackwood, dated weeks after his supposed disappearance. The letter was a testament to his enduring love, but also a confession of his own fears. He wrote of being threatened by the Blackwood matriarch, of being offered a substantial sum to leave, not for his own sake, but to spare Eleanor further pain and scandal. He had agreed, believing it was the only way to protect her reputation and their future, a future he now feared was lost forever. He had entrusted Clara with the letter, hoping she would find a way to deliver it, or at least to offer solace to Eleanor Blackwood. "She never delivered it," Silas said, his voice hollow. "She must have been terrified, or perhaps the pressure from the matriarch was too great." He looked at Eleanor, his gaze filled with a shared sorrow. "My mother carried this burden, and the knowledge of what happened to Julian, for her entire life. She never truly forgave herself for not finding a way to get that letter to Eleanor." The truth, now laid bare, was a tapestry woven with threads of love, betrayal, coercion, and sacrifice. Eleanor Blackwood had been deceived, her love for Julian twisted into a narrative of abandonment. Clara Croft, caught between loyalty to her employer and her affection for Eleanor Blackwood, had made a devastating choice. And Julian, a victim of manipulation, had believed his sacrifice was for the best. The pieces of the puzzle had finally fallen into place, revealing a tragedy far more complex and heartbreaking than Eleanor had ever imagined. Chapter 7: A Fading Bloom, a Resilient Root. The weight of the uncovered truth settled upon Eleanor and Silas like a thick fog. The manor, once a symbol of a strange inheritance, now felt like a mausoleum of broken dreams and unspoken affections. Eleanor felt a deep, abiding sorrow for her great-aunt, whose spirit had been dimmed by a lifetime of heartbreak. She understood now the quiet melancholy that had permeated her great-aunt's later years, the unspoken grief that had haunted the grand halls of Blackwood Manor. Silas, too, grappled with the revelations. His mother, Clara, had always been a figure of quiet strength and unwavering love in his life. To discover she had been a party, however coerced, to such a deception was a difficult truth to reconcile. He saw her now not just as a loving mother, but as a woman who had made impossible choices under immense pressure, a woman who had carried the guilt of those choices in silence. Eleanor found herself spending hours in the neglected gardens, the wild beauty a mirror of the resilience she now recognized in the women of her past. She saw the tenacious roots of the ancient trees clinging to the earth despite the harshness of time and neglect, and felt a kinship with them. She began to tend to the gardens, her hands finding solace in the soil, coaxing life back into the dormant flower beds. It was a slow, painstaking process, much like healing the wounds of the past. One evening, as they sat by the hearth, the silence between them was no longer one of shared curiosity, but of shared contemplation. Eleanor spoke of her great-aunt's unfulfilled life, of the dreams that had been systematically crushed. "She deserved so much more," Eleanor said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "She deserved happiness and love, and to be understood." Silas nodded, his gaze fixed on the dancing flames. "My mother deserved peace," he replied, his voice equally subdued. "She carried that burden for so long. I wish I had known what she was going through, so I could have offered her some comfort." He looked at Eleanor, his eyes holding a profound, shared understanding. "We can't change what happened, Eleanor, but perhaps we can honor their memories by living our own lives fully." Eleanor felt a flicker of that hope again, fragile but persistent. The tragedy of Eleanor Blackwood and Julian Devereux was a heartbreaking tale, but it was also a testament to the enduring power of love, even when it was thwarted and misunderstood. The story of Clara Croft, a woman forced into silence, spoke of the quiet strength of those who make sacrifices for those they care about. The fading blooms of their past lives, Eleanor realized, had left behind resilient roots, capable of nurturing new growth. And in the quiet companionship she found with Silas, amidst the echoes of Blackwood Manor, Eleanor felt a nascent possibility, a hesitant step towards a future that honored the past without being defined by its sorrow. Chapter 8: Seeds of a New Beginning. The acceptance of the past, with all its tangled complexities and heartbreaks, began to loosen the grip that Blackwood Manor held on Eleanor's spirit. The gardens, once a symbol of neglect, were slowly transforming under her care, bursts of color appearing amidst the wild growth. she discovered a hidden patch of hardy roses, their blooms a deep, velvety crimson, a vibrant echo of the passion that had once flourished within these walls. She recognized their resilience, their ability to bloom again after years of neglect, and felt a growing sense of hope. Silas, too, seemed to shed some of the somberness that had clung to him. He began to speak more freely about his own life, his aspirations beyond the confines of the estate. He harbored a secret dream of opening a small carpentry workshop, crafting bespoke furniture from reclaimed wood, a skill he had inherited from his father. Eleanor, with her love for history and storytelling, saw the beauty in his vision, the potential for bringing new life to old materials. One crisp autumn afternoon, as they gathered fallen leaves, Eleanor suggested they collaborate. "Your skill with wood," she said, her eyes bright with an idea. "We could create something beautiful, something that tells the story of this place, but with a new narrative." Silas looked at her, a slow smile spreading across his face. The idea resonated with him, a perfect synergy of their shared experiences and individual talents. They decided to begin with a small project, a handcrafted writing desk, inspired by the one where Eleanor had found her great-aunt's diary. Silas meticulously sketched designs, incorporating subtle nods to the Blackwood family crest and the intricate patterns found in the manor's architecture. Eleanor, meanwhile, researched historical woodworking techniques, drawing inspiration from the era of Julian Devereux, the artist whose passion had once stirred the manor's quiet soul. As they worked together, a new rhythm emerged between them, a comfortable synergy born of shared purpose and mutual respect. The hushed conversations of shared grief evolved into lively discussions of design and craftsmanship. Laughter, once a rare sound within the manor's walls, began to echo through its halls. Eleanor found herself looking forward to their evenings together, to the easy camaraderie that had bloomed between them, as unexpected and beautiful as the crimson roses in the garden. One evening, as they sat by the fire, the nearly completed writing desk between them, Silas spoke, his voice softer than usual. "You've brought a new light to this place, Eleanor. A new life." He looked at her, his gaze steady and open. I don't want this to end when the desk is finished." Eleanor met his gaze, a warmth spreading through her. The seeds of a new beginning had been sown, not just in the gardens of Blackwood Manor, but in the burgeoning connection between two souls who had found solace and purpose amidst the echoes of the past. Chapter 9. A Shared Canvas. The writing desk, a testament to their combined efforts, was nearing completion. Its rich, dark wood gleamed under the lamplight, intricately carved with motifs that spoke of both the manor's history and their shared journey. Silas had poured his heart into the craftsmanship, his hands coaxing beauty from the reclaimed timber. Eleanor had meticulously researched and sourced period-appropriate hardware, ensuring every detail was a nod to the past, yet infused with their own unique vision. Working side by side, their earlier apprehension had dissolved, replaced by a comfortable intimacy. The quiet moments spent together were no longer filled with the heavy weight of past tragedies, but with a burgeoning sense of shared hope. They talked about their individual dreams, Silas's carpentry workshop, Eleanor's desire to transform the Gilded Page into a community hub for local artists and writers. Blackwood Manor, once a repository of sorrow, was becoming a canvas for their future aspirations. One afternoon, while Eleanor was sorting through old family photographs, she found a faded sketch, tucked away in the back of a dusty album. It was a portrait of Eleanor Blackwood, rendered with a tenderness and skill that was unmistakable. It was Julian's work. As Eleanor gazed at it, she felt a profound connection to her great-aunt, a sense of understanding that transcended time. She showed it to Silas, who recognized the artist's distinctive style immediately. "He truly loved her," Silas said, his voice filled with a quiet certainty. "You can see it in every stroke." He looked at Eleanor, a new idea sparking in his eyes. "We should frame this, make it a centerpiece, a reminder of the love that was here, and the love that can be built anew." The idea resonated deeply with Eleanor. The sketch, once lost to time, would now be a beacon, a symbol of enduring affection. They decided to present the desk and the framed sketch together, a symbolic offering to the manor's past, and a bold statement of their own evolving connection. That evening, as a soft rain pattered against the windows, they sat together, the nearly finished desk between them. Silas reached out, his hand gently covering Eleanor's. "This journey," he began, his gaze earnest, "has been extraordinary. Sharing it with you, Eleanor, has been the most unexpected and wonderful part." Eleanor's heart swelled. The quiet understanding that had been growing between them had finally found its voice. She returned his touch, her fingers interlacing with his. The future, once a hazy landscape, was beginning to take shape, painted with the vibrant hues of shared dreams and a love that had quietly, resiliently taken root. Blackwood Manor, once a symbol of endings, was slowly, beautifully, becoming a testament to new beginnings. Chapter 10. The Unfolding Tapestry. The writing desk, complete and magnificent, stood in the grand drawing room, a silent testament to their shared labor. The framed sketch of Eleanor Blackwood, Julian's loving tribute, hung above it, a poignant reminder of the past that had forged their present. The crimson roses in the garden, once a symbol of resilience, were now in full, glorious bloom, their velvety petals unfurling in the warm spring sunshine. Blackwood Manor, no longer a place of shadows, felt alive with a renewed sense of purpose and a quiet joy. Eleanor had decided to stay. She saw Blackwood Manor not as a burden, but as a foundation. She had made arrangements for the gilded page to remain under Mrs. Gable's watchful eye, but her true passion now lay in weaving the history of the manor into a new narrative. She envisioned workshops, guided tours, and events that would celebrate the manor's past while embracing its future. Silas, with his carpentry workshop, was an integral part of that vision. His creations, born from the reclaimed wood of the estate, would grace the manor, infusing it with new life and artistry. The local community, initially wary of the solitary woman who had inherited the enigmatic manor, began to embrace Eleanor and Silas. The stories of their collaborative efforts, their dedication to preserving the manor's heritage, and the tangible beauty they were bringing forth, spread through Willow Creek like a gentle breeze. People began to visit, drawn by curiosity and a growing admiration. One sunny afternoon, a group of villagers gathered for an impromptu unveiling of the writing desk. As Eleanor spoke, her voice steady and filled with a quiet pride, she recounted the story of her great-aunt and Julian, not as a tragedy, but as a testament to the enduring power of love and the courage to overcome adversity. She spoke of Clara Croft's silent strength and of Silas's own dedication to his craft and to the manor. As she finished, Silas stepped forward, his hand finding Eleanor's. "Blackwood Manor," he said, his voice resonating with a quiet conviction, "is a place of many stories, and we are just beginning to write our own." A collective murmur of appreciation rippled through the crowd. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the manor, Eleanor and Silas stood on the veranda, hand in hand. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming roses and the gentle rustling of the ancient willow trees. The past, with its whispers of heartbreak and betrayal, had not been erased, but transformed. It had become the fertile ground upon which a new story, one of love, collaboration, and enduring hope, was unfolding. Eleanor looked at Silas, her heart full. The tapestry of Blackwood Manor was still being woven, and she knew with a certainty that settled deep within her soul that their chapter was just beginning.